Good day, ma'am. Good day, classmates. We are the Group 2, and as for the Group 2, we are assigned to discuss what is public versus private sector personal administration. But before we discuss the differences and similarities between the two, let us first define what is public sector and what is private sector. What is public sector? Public sector is comprises of various business enterprises owned and managed by the government. It is the section of a nation's economy which is under the control of government, meaning public sector are business enterprises which are managed by government. These organizations typically do not seek profit and often provide public services to the government citizen. So these organizations do not seek profit. Instead, they provide services to the people. Examples of these organizations under the control of government are police, army, education, our educators like teachers teaching in public hospitals, and etc. For police and army, they are working not to seek profit but to provide safety to the people. For our educator, our teachers are also working to provide learning to us students and hospitals for healing. All these examples being discussed are just the few organizations under the control of government. Next, we have private sector. What is private sector? Unlike the public sector, companies in the private sector are not government-owned or operated, meaning it is the individual who manages the business, not the government. Examples of these are education and businesses. In private sector, we also have education, but they are the teachers teaching in private schools. They are being paid by the parents of their students. Unlike the public sector, it was the government who pays them. Businesses are also part of the example. Business like clothing store, a restaurant, malls, and many more. What are the advantages of public sector? Public sector employees typically enjoy more job stability because there are organizations that need to meet market pressures. So employees in public sector enjoy more job stability for they don't need to meet market pressures. Market pressures like quality and quantity of the brand, timing, and the pattern of a brand's interactions with its customers. Next, individuals working for government agencies or departments often receive comprehensive benefit package. These benefits may include health insurance and retirement benefits. This advantage can make it easy for such employees to move among different public sector jobs while retaining similar benefits. Next, we have the advantages of private sector. Private sector employees typically receive more opportunities for job advancement because the decision is based on their performance. Unlike public sector, such decisions may rely on government's rules and regulations. More opportunities for pay raises and higher salaries than public sector. One reason is that some high-level public sector jobs have income caps, while private sector jobs do not. Like promotions, a private sector company can increase an employee's salary based on their work performance. The private sector offers a greater diversity in job opportunities, allowing individuals to find work based on their varying interests. The public sector has existing agencies and organizations focused on providing specific public services which may offer more limited options.
These are the similarities between public sector and private sector. Both are customer service oriented. It means having a positive attitude and being eager to help when working with a customer. Second, open to change. An individual's level of acceptance and conscious awareness of the possibility that change may be needed across a range of situations and scenarios. Third, opportunities for employees' growth is the process during which employees, with the support of their employer, go through professional training or pursue learning opportunities to improve their skills and grow their knowledge and careers. Fourth, executive support. Secretarial and administrative support to various executives and independently completes a variety of assigned tasks. And the last one is mentoring, is to support and encourage people to manage their own learning in order that they may maximize their skills, improve their performance, and become the person they want to be. Here are some differences between public sector and private sector. In ownership, in public sector, organizations are owned and controlled by the government, and its purpose is to serve the citizens of the country. While in the private sector, organizations are owned and managed by individuals or private companies, and its purpose is to earn profit. In financial support in the public sector, it receives financial support and fundings from the government, while the private sector fund themselves using their own revenues, issuing shares, or taking out loans. And in employment in the public sector, employees work for public agencies or local, state and federal governments, and their salaries are paid for by tax. While in the private sector, individuals work for a privately owned business or publicly traded company, and the business profits pay its employees salaries. And in typical industries in the public sector, it focuses on public goods and government services, while in the private sector, it focuses on making a profit, so employment are diverse. The administration of personnel in the public sector also differs from that in the private sector in four important ways. The following are legal environment, lines of authority, labor management relations, political environment, and scrutiny.
So now, what is legal environment? Legal environment makes reference to all of the law surroundings that impact project activities. It consists of a variety of acts, rules, regulations. It describes what projects can and cannot do. Legal environment is concerned with protecting the rights and interests of clients, contractors, employees, and the society, providing grounds on which project activities can be carried out. It encourages or restrains activities by providing facilities to law-abiders and giving punishment to lawbreakers, regulating activities and through legal professions relating to wages, labor relations, foreign investment, foreign exchange, environment protection, habitat protection, project location, imports, exports, and taxation, and etc. Example, the legal context of human resources management is that shaped by different shapes. The catalyst for modifying or enhancing the legal context may be legislative initiated by social changes or by juridical ruling. The government bodies pass laws that affect the human resources practices. A court may interpret these laws as they apply to specific circumstances and situations. The regulatory environment itself is very complex, affecting different areas of the human resources management process and practices. Importance of legal environment. The legal environment can influence terms and conditions of trade, the way competition conducted, the treatment of employees, financial reporting, ownership of assets. Describes the Americans with Disabilities Act, Family and Medical Leave Act. The Americans with Disabilities Act 1990. Employers may not discriminate against disabled persons. They must make reasonable accommodations so that qualified employers can perform the job unless doing so would cause undue hardship for the business, altering work schedules, modifying equipment so a wheelchair-bound person can use it, and making buildings accessible by ramps and elevators are considered reasonable. Next is the Family and Medical Leave Act went into effect in 1993. The law guarantees continuation of paid health benefits plus a return the same or equivalent job and applies to employers with 50 or more employees. It requires these employers to provide unpaid leave of up to 12 weeks during any 12-month period to workers who have been employed for at least a year and work at least 1,250 hours during the past year. The reasons for the leave include the birth or adoption of the child, the serious illness of a child's spouse or parent, or a serious illness that prevents the worker from doing the job. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, only 11% of all private industry workers have access to paid family leave. Prohibited partisan political activity reminder as required by Hatch Act. The Hatch Act generally prohibits federal employees from engaging in political activities while on duty, in a government room or building, while wearing an official uniform, or while using a government vehicle. Under the Hatch Act, political activity is defined as any activity directed toward to the success or failure of a political party, candidate or partisan political office, or partisan political group. Violations of the Hatch Act carry serious penalties, which may result in disciplinary action or removal from federal employment. The Hatch Act applies to all department employees. However, application of its restrictions is generally broken down into two groups, which can be determined by an employee's position. One class, less restricted employees, includes most department employees. This class of employees can participate actively in political management or partisan political campaigns while off duty, outside a federal facility, and not using federal property. Department employees are encouraged to exercise fully, freely, without fear or penalty or reprisal, and to the extent not expressly prohibited by law, their rights to participate in or to refrain from participating in the political processes of the nation.
The federal system has implications for the public sector that do not affect private employment to the same extent. The national government sets policy for its employees, and each state sets policy for its personnel system, including local government systems. The U.S. government sets policy for its employees, but each state has discretion in operating its own personnel system. A stricter standard of behavior is generally expected of public employees than of private sector workers. This differs of countries like France and Korea, where all public employment is governed by one national policy.
Line authority. So first, what is line authority? Based on my research, line authority is the power given to someone in a supervisory position to mandate actions by subordinates. It is also the chain of command within an organization that confers the power to order subordinates to perform a task within their job description. So, in my own understanding, the line authority is the higher level position in the organization who is in charge of giving orders. So, as what I said earlier, it is the chain of command. So, when we say command, she or he had only the power to mandate all over member in the organization to perform properly their tasks in jobs.
Examples of managers with a business who have line authority are controller, engineering manager, production manager, and last, sales manager. Controller. What is controller? Controller is an individual who has responsibility for all accounting-related activities with the company, including managerial accounting and finance. What does a controller do? A controller oversees an organization's daily accounting operations, including the accounting payroll, accounts payable, and account receivable departments. The controller also helps guide companies' strategic financial decisions and is therefore integral to the financial health of the firm. Next is engineering manager. An engineering manager is responsible for ensuring that key projects and engineering duties are fulfilled. They are responsible for solving any engineering issue that comes up in a project. They also have to prepare reports on the progress of any project. And next is the production managers. Production managers plan, coordinate, and control manufacturing processes so that products are delivered on time and within budget. As a production manager, you'll make sure goods are produced safely, cost-effectively, and on time, and that they meet the required quality standards. Next and last is sales manager. A sales manager is a business discipline which is focused on the practical application of sales techniques and the management of the firm's sales operations. It is important business function as net sales through the sale of products and services, and resulting profit drive most commercial business. What a salesman do? Salesman recruit, hire, and train new members of the sales staff. Sales managers direct organizations, sales teams, they set goals, analyze data, and develop training programs for organization sales representatives.
Labor management relations. The term labor management relations refers to interaction between employees as represented by labor unions and their employers. Labor unions are organizations of employees in particular industries, companies, or groups of industries or companies who join together in order to further workers' individual interests. Labor management relations are the most complicated set of relations that any HR manager has no deal with. Efficient maintenance of labor relations help the HR manager in developing a harmonious environment within the organization, which in turn helps the organization in effectively achieving its goals and objectives. Well-managed labor relations provide a competitive advantage to the organization by negating the hassles arising out of labor or union-related issues and conflicts.
Political environment. What is political environment? Is the state government and its institution, a legislation, and the public or private stakeholders who operate and interact with or influence the system. The political atmosphere should be good and very stable for a firm to operate successfully. Political environment forms the basis of the business environment in the country. The political environment is also part of four sectors in a public versus private sectors, personal administrations, but there's a difference between them. The public portion of the economy composed of all levels of the government and government-controlled enterprises. It not include private companies, voluntary organizations, and households. Private is the part of economy that is run by individuals and companies of profit and is not state controlled. Therefore, it encompasses of all profit businesses that are not operated by the government. In short, they have own small businesses. For example, broadband services providers, food shops, mobile phones providers, and dealerships and consumer goods and companies, thus we selling electronic, and TVs, refrigerators, and laptops. There are four main effects of the political factors in businesses organizations. They are impact on economy, change in regulations, political stability, and mitigation of risk. The first is impact on economy. The political situation of a country affects in economic setting. The economic environment affects the business performance. Second, change in regulations. Governments could alter the rules and regulation. This could in turn have effects on a business. Political stability. Lack of political stability in a country affects business operations. This is especially true for the companies which operate internationally. Fourth, mitigation of risk. Buying political risk insurance is a way to manage political risk. Companies that have international operations use such insurance to reduce the risk of exposure. The last part of political environment. The importance of observing the political environment. Firms should track the political environment. Change in the political factors can affect business strategy because of the following reasons. First, the stability of a political system can affect the appeal of a particular local market. Second, government views the business organizations as a critical vehicle of social reform. Third, governments pass legislations which impact the relationship between the customers, suppliers, and the companies. The government is liable of protecting the public interest. Fifth, government action influences the economic environment. Sixth, government is a major consumer of goods and services.
So now, what is scrutiny? Scrutiny comes from the Latin word for search, which means to search, sort of trust. It can also be intense look, like when your mother is trying to tell you something is wrong because she's looking right at you. For example, scrutiny is searching, examination, or investigation, minute inquiry, surveillance, close and continuous watching or guarding, a close and searching look.
Scrutiny when you look at something really closely, like when you are checking a test for mistake. Scrutiny can also be intense look, like when your mother look at you trying to tell if you might be lying.
Executive branch. In U.S. Constitution, they established the separation of the executive, legislative, and judicial powers. In theory, public employees are under the direction of the executive branch. All the employees of the legislature and judiciary report directly to those branches. In reality, the chief executive has limited authority over the public bureaucracy. Because civil service regulation protect most public employees, the chief executive has little power to change the conditions of their employment or control the activities. The executive branch is headed by the president, who functions as both the head of state and the head of government. The president is also responsible for the execution and enforcement of the laws created by Congress. 15 executive departments. Each department is led by an appointed member of the President Cabinet. Carry out the day-to-day administration of the federal government. The power of the executive branch is vested in the President of the United States, who also acts as head of state and commander-in-chief of the armed forces. The executive also has a rule. The role of executive is to put government laws and programs into effect. It is made up the public service and government ministers. And the main function of the executive of government, he or she is responsible for the implementation of laws, policies adopted by the legislature.
Legislative consists of the House of Representatives and the Senate, which together form the United States Congress. Constitution grant Congress the sole authority to enact legislations and declare wide the right to confirm or reject many presidential appointments and substantial investigation power. So, legislative, the branch of government having the power to make laws. House representative is made up to 435 elected members, divided among the 50 states in proportions to their total population. In addition, there are 6 non-voting members representing the District of Columbia, the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, and 4 other territories of the United States. So, House of Representatives is one of the 2 House of the United States Congress, and is often referred to as the House. The number of the representative each state has is the House of Representatives is proportional to its population. House Senate is composed of 100 senators, 2 for each state, until the ratification of the 17th Amendment in 1913. Senators were chosen by state legislative, not by popular vote. Since then, they have been elected to 6 years by the people of state. So, House Senate is given important power under the advance and consent provision, Article 2, Section 2 of the Constitution. Ratification on treaties required are 2/3 majority of the senators present, and a simple majority for approval of important public appointments such as those of cabinet members, ambassador, and justice of the Supreme Court. That's all. Thank you.
Judicial bodies. Public employees are under the direction of the executive branch, although employees of the legislature and judiciary report directly to those branches. So in the Philippines, the judicial body is composed of the Chief Justice as ex officio chairman, the Secretary of Justice, and representative of Congress as ex officio members, and a representative of the integrated bar, a professor of law, a retired member of the Supreme Court, and the representative of the private sector as a member. According to research, the judicial branch decides the constitutionality of federal laws and resolves other disputes about federal laws. However, judges depend on government executive branch to enforce court decision. Court decide what really happened and what should be done about it. The purposes of the judicial system are: first, interpret federal laws; second, resolve legal disputes; third, punish those who violate the laws; fourth, make decisions in civil cases; and lastly, assess the innocence or guilt of a person based on criminal laws. So the judicial power rests with the Supreme Court and the lower court as established by the law. Its duty is to settle actual controversies involving rights which are legally demandable and enforceable.
Elements of judicial bodies. The media. The word media is a plural form of the Latin word medium, meaning middle ground or intermediate. The term media is the plural of medium, refers to the communication channels through which we disseminate news, movies, music, education, promotional messages, and other data. Its usage as a word to describe newspapers, radios, and other sources of information likely derives from the term mass media, which was a technical term used in advertising industry. It describes the various ways through which we communicate in society because it refers to all means of communication, everything ranging from a telephone call to the evening news on the television can be called media. Media are the communication outlets or tools used to store and deliver information or data. The term refers to the components of mass media communication industry, such as print media, publishing, the news media, photography, cinema, broadcasting, radio and television, digital media, and advertising. The main goal of media is to inform and communicate with the greatest number of people possible all at once. The public relies on the media to learn about social and political issues, entertainment, important world event, popular culture, and local and global news. That's it.
Next, with the media, is the interest groups. Let's define what is interest groups. According to my research and the internet, interest groups is any association of individuals or organizations, usually formally organized, that on the basis of one or more shared concerns, attempts to influence public policy in its favor. It is also called special interest group, advocacy group, or pressure group. Examples are clientele groups, minority and women's group, public interest groups, professional association, civic groups, taxpayer associations, and public employee associations and unions. They share a desire to affect government policy to benefit themselves or their cause. Their goal could be a policy that exclusively benefits group member or one segment of society. They attempt to achieve their goals by lobbying. Any attempt by individuals or interest groups to influence the decisions of government. It is also referred to effort to influence the vote of legislators. So, from the meaning itself, it is a group of individuals that has the same goal or concerns about public policy. So to achieve their goal, they are trying to convince those people that has a
that has the ability to implement public policies, to defend or to approve the policy that they want for themselves. So in my own thoughts, they are called as an special group because they want an attention coming from the government. An advocacy group because they want to share their ideas in the public. A pressure group because it has a side that affect the public personnel administration. So for me, interest group has both negative and positive sides. It has a positive sides because they are the way of unheard voices to be heard, and a negative sides because they are trying to pursue self-interest that benefit themselves.
Politician parties and political have always had an interest in public personnel. Operation politicians often view patrons as a means of exerting control over issuing the responsibilities of public employees. They also see that getting action by a public agency as an issue that is important to their constitutions help in the getting elected for more. Politicians often have public purposes to be easy target for political rhetoric and thus explode public service problems and interactions for a political purpose. In fact, public personnel report in 1883 and 1978 comes about written because politicians ask confusion and interest as issue. Therefore, personnel public against not always the operating concern behind such appeals too often. However, critics of the public service this title to improve in service merely to discredit in conference regularly as reference to the incompetence of over public pregnancy. Indeed, today most candidates of for public increase promise of reduced tax and reducing the misbearingses as one way to do so. They promise how obvious imposition of personnel management is the not surface that once elected the office holders often face struck for government employees. The 2010 and 2012 election included many candidates critical for Obama healthcare reform, saying that they did not Washington Borishian Fox making medical decisions that using public service as escapism in their campaign.
The general public. It is essential that we protect them so they can meet the needs of the future. Public service, extend opportunities, protect the vulnerable, and improve everyone's quality of life. They are essential to our economic development and prosperity. They strengthen our communities and blend together as a society. And the public service is supposed to serve an interest with the difficult together with the leaders and personnel of the expectation of the long range, including the personnel employees.